Looks like the board is joining now.
Okay, there's Deb.
How are you, Jim?
Good. How's everybody?
Thanks for being here.
Yep, no problem. Thank you for having us. Getting everybody in.
Yeah, we need Barbara, Tim.
Hey, hi everyone. Sorry there.
Hello.
Hey, Jim.
I'm here, Barbara.
Okay, great. Hello, Eric. John, Mike, looks like everybody's here. Are we ready to start? Do we have Tim here yet? Who we got? Dave. Pat's here.
Yeah, I don't see Tim.
Yeah, let's wait another minute for Tim. He should be on shortly. And Deb, I think you said Amy was going to be a little bit late.
Yeah, let me check in with her.
Okay.
She usually joins by phone. John, do you know if anybody is signed in on YouTube? Christine Sampson was looking for the link.
I just started the live stream about a minute ago.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, I do have some people here on my email. I have Jody Hallman, another gentleman that has signed in. Christine Sampson has not signed in yet, but I do have a few parents who are signed in. We have a Tony that has signed in, so we do have several people. They're trying to sign in now, so they're asking me when it's going live.
They're signing into what?
Well, they're asking me now. It says Julie is the Board of Education meeting showing online. I can't see anything, and that was at 7:13. 1 minute.
Well, we're live now.
Okay, so I can respond to them live now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll do that now.
I text Amy. I didn't hear from her, Barbara.
I just texted Tim also.
Christine Sampson says she can't hear anybody. John, the volume.
Live now.
Right now, it says that a community member said, "Sorry, media is offline."
I'm looking at it right now.
Okay, I'm just saying that's what they're saying to me.
Okay. All right. So Tim is here, so we should probably go ahead and start the meeting. It's 7:15. Julie, do you want to do roll call?
Sure. Barbara Dayton?
Here.
Dave Conlon?
Here.
Tim Fraser? Tim?
Here.
Pat Brabant?
Here.
Amy Rivera?
Okay. Great. Thank you, Julie. John, have you got the picture of the flag?
Well, Jim has a presentation up, so I can't
Oh, okay.
do
Well,
one also, I believe.
you know
Sorry.
what? Well,
You want me to stop that?
Pat's got the flag up there. We could.
Yep, it's there.
Got it.
Yeah?
Thanks,
Yes.
Pat.
Okay, we're using Pat's flag? All
Yes.
right, if we could all rise to the Pledge of Allegiance then. I pledge allegiance to the
To
flag.
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. It will be much easier. We can get back to doing that in person. We're going to start out with an update on our capital project. Tim, you want to go ahead and fill us in on that? And talk about the ad alternate that we have talked about. Thanks.
Okay. So I'm going to turn this over to a full screen to show you what to show me the PowerPoint. Everyone can see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So good evening, everybody. And once again,
Jim.
we're here to, what's that?
I said, good evening.
Oh, thank you. We're here once again to update you on the construction progress that's currently ongoing for the Phase 2 work at Spring School. So we're going to get you guys up to speed on the work progress that's been going on for the month of July. Then we're going to jump into what's looking ahead for August and the work that's anticipated. And then we have some construction photos that'll support the work that was completed in July. And then we're going to finish up with a recent development with some discovered conditions in classroom 54. And we'll discuss some about that. So the construction that's been going on for the month of July has been very busy out there, as we all know. A lot of activity, a lot of work going on with the foundation walls and footings. That work is more or less complete with all that formwork and pouring of concrete. There'll be a little more work going on with some internal footings and haunch walls and stuff, but for the most part, the big work for the foundations is done with little to no issues. Anything that we had to deal with, we managed in the field as it was ongoing. So nothing was really held up in that phase. We've started some, the contractors have started some construction in the interior spaces, Area B, which is the nurse's office getting renovated. There's an existing classroom that was divided into 3 spaces, which is getting turned into 2 small group rooms, and some other interior work in that area of the building as well. The abatement that was added after the project was awarded for classrooms 63 and 65, that floor tile removal, that work has been started, and it'll be progressing through August. The foundation walls that were poured and cured are now being backfilled, and some additional interior renovation work is ongoing in the building in Area A, where the classroom ceilings and hallways are getting some new ceilings. So the grid work is started in those areas. For August, looking ahead to next month, construction will progress into the walls above grade, which would be concrete walls throughout the new addition. That work will be starting, probably the 1st of August. The new fields, the ball fields that are being constructed, are starting the clearing and grubbing process, where they're removing trees and grading areas for the new ball field back there. Then the electrical and plumbing work is going to be following up in the nurses area, in the small group classroom area. The hallways and classrooms where the contractors have installed the ceiling grid, the next phase will be installing the ceiling tile and the lighting in those areas. And lastly, classrooms 63 and 65, they will be getting their floor tiles installed. So right now, those two rooms have just been stripped of the asbestos tiles. And now we're just waiting for the contractors to get the material on site so they can put down the new tiles. We were informed at the construction meeting that that material is going to be delivered shortly, so that work will be able to happen right away. Excuse me. So that was good. Any questions on any of that work that we've covered, either July that just passed or what we've touching on looking for August? All right, so I'm going to just run through some construction photos of work that's been completed. So we have the foundations. This is an earlier photograph before there was backfilling that was done. So this shows some of the footings where there's some sleeves and conduit that's been laid in the ground that goes underneath the slabs. So you can see some of that material in place, as well as the foundation walls going up above the footings. This is a picture looking back towards the existing gymnasium. We're actually looking at the new gym addition in these photos, and that just shows the inside the foundations where the material has been placed and backfilled up to about the level of where the finished floor will be inside the building. The areas outside the foundation walls are still kind of low, but that's just how the grading is outside these areas. Some places, finished floor and grade are almost aligned, and other areas the grade kind of drops down as you go around the building. So the difference between inside and outside is pretty evident in these pictures. These are some pictures of the interior reconstruction. This is the separation of room 50 and 49 and 51, I believe. It's two small group rooms. This was once 3 individual small spaces, now it'll become 2. But this just shows the stud partition going up. Next week, they'll probably do the chipboard framing on either side of that wall. This is pictures of the nurse's office, the 2 handicap toilets that are being constructed in there. The stud walls going up for that, and some of the electrical work and roughing work will be happening next week.
And these are sort of like across the hall from where they were before, right?
They're within the nurse's office the way it exists now, but where those 2 small toilets were that were down that little narrow hallway.
Right, okay.
That hallway has been eliminated, and actually the entry into that now becomes the entry into one of the handicapped toilets. I don't believe it's the men's staff or the ladies' staff, but it's one of those. And then there's one internal handicapped toilet that will be designated for the nurse's office area itself. This is just showing some of the the reframing and reconfiguration of that space. This is classrooms 63 and 65, where the tile has been removed. The abatement work was completed, and clean air results were determined by the testing agency. So all that work was done, and now they're just waiting for the materials to arrive and getting the areas cleaned, and all that loose material out of there is important, so that when the flooring contractor comes in, he can just get in there and lay down that floor without anything in his way. So this was pretty important to get done this summer or right away at this stage in the game. This way, when that tile is down, give a chance for the custodians to get in there and do their cleaning work prior to school opening. Some more interior renovation photos showing the ceiling grid in one of the classrooms being installed and down the main corridor. The grid work is all in place. Next phase of work for this would be installing the actual ceiling tiles and the lighting.
Okay, Jim, can I ask a question here if you don't mind?
Sure.
So this kind of preparation also makes it easier to replace those tiles in the ceiling. You don't have to take a bunch of tiles out to replace the ones that are already there.
Right, you can move these to the side and get above and pull computer wiring, cabling.
Right.
You can run some small size conduit up there. Yeah, and you can work around this much easier than you can having to remove the spline ceilings, which are all integrated
Right.
in such a way that it makes it difficult to put them back once you remove something.
Right. Are you also replacing the windows in this classroom on the left as well as the
That is
ceiling?
a classroom that had windows previously replaced.
Okay.
There's that shows the newer type of double hung windows that are
Right.
being proposed for some of the other classrooms that are elsewhere that will be started. But yeah, no, this one doesn't show the classrooms who are removing the windows yet.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Yep. Next, okay. So now we have 2 classrooms where the ceilings are being work is being done on the ceiling replacement. So similar to the previous photos, the game plan is to get those ceiling tiles in, then lighting in. This way, these spaces can be turned over to the building's custodial staff, where they can get in and start cleaning these spaces, lock the door, and nobody else has to go in there. There's no other work to be performed in these areas, so that'll allow the custodians to get time to get in there and strip the floors and get those rooms ready. And this is just another photograph of the foundations, but from I guess from a rooftop perspective, looking down on the new gymnasium foundation and the work that's ongoing with that. It's quite an undertaking to take that whole area the way it was and strip it all out, get the footings in the ground, the foundations, and then backfilled. So you can see at the point where the contractors are now, starting the block work on those areas where those little pieces of metal are sticking up. That's where the block work will be laid on to give alignment with the foundation wall. The hope is that the block work will come up quickly. That is something that moves relatively fast once the contractors get started. And in doing that, come the opening of school in September, that these areas will be more isolated in terms of any noise that may be generated during the course of the school year, where there'll be work ongoing as classes are ongoing, and how September and October can be with the need to get fresh air. And I think certain mandates now with what we're dealing with will require more fresh air in the classrooms. So opening the windows is going to be more of a common thing. We're hopeful that the block walls going up will keep down a lot of the noise that may be ongoing as construction is happening during the course of the year.
When would the actual roof be put on that, Jim? What's the timeline on that?
That I'd have to touch base with Derek on and see if he's got any updated construction schedules that would indicate that. I don't have any in front of me right now, but I would, looking at the point to where the block walls will be, more or less up by the end of the summer. I would say, early fall, they'll start putting the roof framing,
Right.
and then the deck work would start. I would assume that by when we start getting into some of the colder months, like December, that the deck will be down. They want to get that deck down so they can start doing slab work. So yeah, it's kind of a tight window. You want to get all that in so that you can start doing some of that interior work.
So when does the floor start going in, and what's that process going to be? I didn't really think about the fact that these foundation walls would ultimately get filled back in with backfill. So what goes on top of that? Just so I have an understanding of what's going to happen.
Right. So there's a couple ways that the concrete floor process can go. Sometimes they get the foundation walls in and then they pour the slabs so they can kind of work off that as a sturdy surface. But that has a tendency to cause problems in a finished type building environment. They may do that in like a warehouse or big department stores. But in a schools, they want to build the outside walls up first, get the roof on, or at least the metal deck on, get it somewhat watertight, and then they can pump in the concrete into the building from the various door openings, and then float it out to be nice and level and smooth inside the building, allowing the other work, once those floors cure, to start happening inside.
Okay.
So at this point, the walls will be the first thing to be going up, followed by the roof deck, and then the interior slabs will start getting poured.
Sorry to interrupt, but there's no sound on the website on YouTube. So the public can't hear the meeting.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at it right now.
There's always a technical glitch somewhere.
Especially with, as many times as we do these things, we always find out something. So I think that summary of pictures for, construction progress, shows a fair amount of work that's been performed out there. The contractors have been keeping up with the pace of work that's got to be done. They've been, from what I'm told or been reported, keeping their masks in place and, abiding by all those requirements and regulations. So hasn't been any issues there. So this is, we've been fortunate that our summer has been relatively dry. So the work has just been moving along. I'm sure we're going to, run into a couple of days of bad weather, but, at this point, there's nothing that really should be holding back any work from progressing. So I think everything appears that we're on the targeted schedule at this point. And it'll be very interesting to see when they start that field work, how that progresses and how rapidly that starts to move. There'll be, I'm sure, some issues we need to contend with as far as dust mitigation goes, because those field areas, when those winds start blowing, can start carrying some debris. So we have to remind the contractors to wet down the areas and keep the truck movement to a minimal so that it doesn't stir up all the dust. Right. So last thing I'm going to touch on is a new development I mentioned, and this is with regard to classroom 54, which is one of the existing kindergarten classrooms, part of the original building. As the contractors were trying to find a level in the ceiling for putting in the new ceiling grid, they discovered that the center of the room was dropping down about 5 inches, and they assumed that it was the ceiling tile had released from the gyp board, which is kind of supporting the concealed spline stuff, which typically happens sometimes. The fasteners come loose and the ceiling just starts to sag. When they tried to prop it back up, they found that it wasn't going anywhere, and they realized it was more of an issue above that. So they got up into the attic and then discovered that there was some issue with the truss, and this red line indicates the truss where the sagging was occurring, and it was only in one isolated area in the center that caused the issue. I have some photographs of the room. This was I was out in that space in January, that classroom in January, taking pictures of the ceilings and just doing some final documentation. And looking at these pictures, it might be difficult for you to see where you are, but there's no indication of a drop or anything. The tiles are all intact. The lighting fixtures are very straight. You don't see any noticeable dip or anything. So for anybody to have been able to detect this ahead of time, I guess you would have had to be up at the ceiling level to look across one side to the other, that you may have noticed it. But from the floor, the teacher in that space, any of the custodians getting in and out of there, you would never have been able to determine that there was anything wrong above there. So when the contractors got into the attic space to see, these two pictures show, the one on the left with the boxes show the areas where there's separation in what's called the bottom chord of the truss. That's the, wood truss is built up of wood members to allow it to span long distances, as opposed to just straight, 2x12s or, regular framing lumber. This truss spans close to 40 feet. So they needed to build something that was significantly structural rather than just trying to span it with regular framing. But over time, something must have caused it to flex in the center of that span, which caused the bottom cord, which is in tension like a rubber band, to snap. And it's not an imminent danger of collapse, but it is something that needs to be addressed. And we've had our structural engineer out to the site to take a look at this, and he's working up some details, or has actually given us one detail that he's recommending or proposing, and we're in discussion to see if there are other alternatives.
Jim, was he surprised at what had happened, or what was his take on it?
It's something
Was he
that he's
excited that this is something unique, or was it something
definitely not unique? He said this is stuff he's seen similar things in his experience. It's a surprise to me. I've never come across this, to be honest.
Right.
Especially in some of these older buildings where they really built things, time and a half above, the stress levels that typically needed to be considered. So, it's very rare. You see it in new construction because everyone's cutting everything to the edge. They don't want to oversize things because it costs more money.
Right.
But in the, the 20s and whenever this was all done, the lumber was cheap. So you just double the size if you really wanted to be safe. So I can only imagine that there was some event, snow load, wind load, something that put some added stress on that truss to just cause it to crack.
Right.
But I mean, the bad news is this was discovered now. It wasn't something that was in any of the reports that were previously done.
Right.
But it is something we can deal with now and get fixed. And we're just working out how that fix is going to be handled. As I mentioned, our engineer has been out to look at it, and this is one of his proposals where we would take the bottom chord of the truss off, or at least support it in a way. These are supports that would need to be done, those vertical members, to keep the truss in place when when the contractors do that work. So they would have to support that bottom chord with two new pieces of lumber on either side and then bolt through it. So that would take all the weight that the bottom chord is supporting, and then transfer it to the new lumber. As I mentioned, it's 40 feet long, so it's a large piece of lumber that would need to be in there, but most likely we would splice it so it could be handled and put into place a little easier. And that's something that an engineer's detail will have to determine how that splice occurs and where it occurs. But this is something that looks like a workable solution to fixing it, and we're just trying to come up with the details that we can give to the contractor so that they can get us some pricing and an idea on when it can be done. Right now, this is the last room where they haven't done any of the ceiling work because this is obviously holding it up. So we don't want to put it off too long, because ultimately we got that ceiling has to get in, and the custodians have to be able to get in there to do their work. So as far as any other information that we have at this time, getting the engineer out there, I think, was important to everybody to let him see what was going on and determine what could be done to fix it. So we're in good shape with that. The only unknown at this point is how much ceiling has to be removed in that area in order to gain access to the bottom chord of the truss, plus anything that frames into it, to be able to reattach it once things are removed. So a little bit more investigation will be done on that, and hopefully we'll have more information at the beginning of next week.
So about when do you think this might get resolved? Are we looking at within the next couple of weeks getting it replaced, or is it going to be longer than that?
No, I think by the end of next week we'll have our the answer as to what we ultimately think needs to be done, and that information to the contractor, and hopefully his pricing back by then, or if not, probably by the end of the week, and then get that to you, to the board, so that we can determine approval of that and give him the direction to move ahead.
Okay, thanks, Jimmy. That's unfortunate, but better to find this out now, certainly.
Yes,
Something had to happen, right?
yes. That's all I have as far as the presentation goes. Are there any other questions or comments on what was presented, or thoughts?
No, I think, when we're talking about these rooms and stuff, sometimes it's hard for me to visualize, because maybe we need, like, just in terms of the presentation, having a schematic in there, so and people looking also, the public can see exactly what rooms we're talking about. That would be helpful. I just think as we're reviewing this in a public presentation, but otherwise it's, as I've said before, this is very exciting. It's great to see
Yeah,
this
it's moving ahead.
foundation, and so much that's getting done.
I agree. I think it's really progressing in the the front of the building. I didn't have any pictures of that, unfortunately, but I heard that turned out really well, and the graduation went well for the 8th grade class. So I'm glad to see that was able to get done.
Yeah, no, the graduation went really well, and the new parking lot looks great there. I did a drive-through of it the other day.
Okay, good.
Jim, do you want to talk about the ad alternate that is under finance a little later, but with the sod for the field?
So yeah, at this point, I guess you looking to accept that ad alternate tonight, so that we can give the contractor, I guess, approval to consider that that's going to be used in lieu of regular grass out at the new field. That'll help, get on that field faster, and I think it'll grow in a little stronger, given time that it's going to need to grow. But I think having that alternate and knowing what that cost is going to be was good to have in the bid. And now that if it's something we can afford to put into the project, I think it would be beneficial to getting that area of the project completed.
I think the board realizes our students could possibly miss out on another whole season due to COVID, and the sooner they can get on those fields after COVID, it would be really very important.
Yeah, this would certainly, give them that opportunity, and grass would certainly work, but I think the turf in this instance is a better option to go with, given the opportunity that you guys are having right now.
It's sod, not turf. Sod.
Sod, right? Turf is that plasticky stuff.
I'm going with sod. Thank you.
Sod.
Thank you for clarifying that. Yes.
I'm sorry. The other thing I just wanted to mention too is that I think maybe next week, towards the end of the month, I had mentioned to Mr. Henry that we'd be doing our BCS walkthrough of the buildings. So trying to schedule that with the engineer. So will it be the last week in July or first week in August? We're trying to nail it down. So we'll be walking the buildings to get that report started. The only question I have is, are we looking at the SYA building as well, or just the main school and the modulars?
The modular building is the portable is going to stay with us. It's going to be converted to a bus part delivery.
Right.
Or delivery trucks can pull up, but the FYA is not our building. That belongs to the town.
Okay.
And for this year, we will not be using it.
Okay. Yeah, just wanted to know. I know, I think in past reports, we saw that it was looked at, so we'll probably just focus on. We'll still look at the modular building just as we're out there. I know we're renovating it, so we'll see. But the main building we'll get into and get that report started for you.
And the roof, please.
And the roof will be in there.
The roof that goes on forever.
Yeah,
Yes.
just to be clear, so in case anybody didn't know the initials, the BCS is the Building Condition Survey that we have to do every 5 years.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Okay. Does anybody have any other questions for Jim at this point? Okay. All right. Well, Jim, thank you very much. Again, appreciate your being here this evening and going over all that with us.
No problem.
Look forward to hearing the results of whatever happens with that truss, and
Yes.
I'm sure we'll hear as soon as you know.
Yeah, we'll keep on that all week and get you information as it comes available.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
And lastly, I know Deb, you were asking about some information on the tents and things. I
Yeah.
guess you're looking at renting or buying a tent that has been previously used, and you would set it up. There are some regulations that SED has. I'm going to take a look at it and see where it applies to your situation. All right. But they do have some things that I need to kind of look at. And from what you described, I think I got to just look at what the criteria is for what needs to be done based on its use and being more of an open outdoor space with a cover over it. So we'll know more, probably by the end of the week.
Yeah, I will. And again, just to have some outdoors additional space that has an overhang on it, something that's very flexible, like a flexible space,
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Well, thank you very much.
All right. Thanks again. And we will be talking to you soon.
Okay.
All right.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Jim. Take care of yourself. Thanks for being here.
Okay, so it's time for public commentary number 1. If anybody has any questions on our items of board business, Julie, do you have anything?
No, I don't have anything now. I do have a comment for the second comment.
Sorry, what was that?
I don't have anything right now, but I do have second commentary.
Julie, are you on 2 devices? You're getting an echo.
Yeah, I couldn't hear what you had questions about, so I don't know if you want to put those in the chat so we can see, but I couldn't understand what you were saying. But it sounds like you have no questions. There are no questions for items of board business.
John, they still have no sound, John. There is still no sound on the YouTube video.
Where did that come from?
That sounds like me. It's an echo.
No, is that the delayed recording? Was John, were you just playing that? Okay. John, do you want to put your mic on mute because we're hearing all that feedbacky stuff, or do you need that on right now? There we go. So I think while he figures that out, we should probably just continue ahead with the items of regular board business, and maybe we can hopefully we'll get that straightened out in time for later stuff in the meeting. So we have our contractual services appointments, which we did not have all the contracts for last time, so we're able to have them this evening. And this looks like a combination almost of personnel. Deb, do you want to go over these items, personnel and finance, the way it's listed as votes and resolutions?
Under the contractual services?
Yeah, I mean, everybody got that, and Julie also sent out a comparison in terms of any ones that had a price change, so everybody should have got
that you're clear on.
Yep.
So the agreement with Southampton is for tuition. We send, carry a couple of students to Southampton. So this is the contract for 10 months. The BOCES is all of our BOCES services. So Mike attached the extensive list that you have there. A lot of it is our programs that we run, your eSchool,
Yep.
your related services for special ed children that are at BOCES.
And I
Our
think
report cards.
Sorry, what?
Our report cards, anything that they do Envision they support. So they support a lot of our electronic programs.
Right. And that's listed as an anticipated amount. It's not necessarily that we're spending that amount. We could spend less than that, but I mean, as these are services we've used before, this is what, Mike, you guys are anticipating that would be again.
Correct. We never go up to that amount, Barbara. They also have some administrative costs combined in there. So if you don't use the service, we of course don't pay for the administrative cost that's attached to those.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Professional development's in there. Again, we sometimes don't use it all. So, Diana Rafferty is doing our box room to back up Betty Ann. And she's also doing the food run every day. Again, East Hampton continues to provide food for our families that are in need. So that's Diana there. And Sean, Adina, I'm sorry. Sean is doing ABA services. He is the monitor on the bus for the West Hampton Beach Run, and he's familiar with one of the students, so he will be doing the APA services for that student.
Okay, thanks, Deb. Does any of the board members have any questions on these items right now?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Barbara.
Yep.
And just to clarify, I just want to clarify. So we'll go back to BOCES. The amount of 1.55, whatever it is, you said you don't anticipate on spending. What's our usual spending on that?
Mike, do you have that?
Well, every year we budget about 1.8 million because we have contract modifications, like when we had to do special runs for transportation stuff. But for the most part, this past year, we're going to be in just under 1.5 million in total, which leaves us a cushion of about 300,000 on the BOCES. But again, you never know from year to year. Long Island Computer Network is part of the BOCES contract number 2. So.
Okay, that's because when you said a cushion, I didn't know how much of a cushion it was. You originally got 1.8, now we're down to 1.5, so you played the cushion up quite a bit.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I mean, we leave allowances for, we never know how many special ed students we're going to be sending out to West Hampton Beach. So we always leave 1 or 2 spots available in there just in case we have new children moving into the neighborhood that need that service. And then there's a lot of items that we have to commit to at the beginning of the year. So what you see there is what they call the AS7 contract, which is the initial contract with BOCES. So there are certain things that, if we're going to use it, they want us to say, and we want it in that contract, and they kind of block off themselves that number as a budget to us, what they're going to, collect from us.
Gotcha. Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Hey, Mike, do you know what we pay with Syntax? Because I don't see it in there, or maybe just
you have to look in I think it's in the public relations area on the AS7. I don't recall exactly how much it is, but I know I want to say just under $10,000.
I mean, that's something too. I mean, I'm always a little underwhelmed with them. I mean, I don't know what the rest of the administration thinks, but are there other competitors out there besides Syntax?
It's Dave.
Well, bear with.
Dave, it's what we're paying for. We're not paying for a full PR firm. We pay for web hosting. Basically, they just host. John Gibbons does most of our website. And they pay for troubleshooting, such as, when I have a letter that I want to get out and to review it. A real PR firm, if we were paying like $50,000, they would have a quota of number of articles that they have to get out, doing press releases. I do most of the calling to the press and emailing to get them out at our school. We pay for the service. We pay a very minimal fee, Syntax, for a very minimal amount of efforts.
Well, if you send them something to proofread, how quickly do they get back to you so that you can get it out in a timely manner?
Almost daily. I have her cell phone number. I usually text her and tell her that I've emailed her something.
Dave, the really benefit of having them, at least from my experience in the past, is that if a crisis comes up, some kind of something that we really need advice on about how to get the message out there, that it's something that's out of the ordinary. They've really been great in helping us communicate to families and the community about what's going on. Sometimes you need that support. They are local on the East End, and I know they've been doing this for many, many years. And I just feel personally that you need someone to kind of help you in these situations. And I think Deb needs someone to help us in these situations, to get someone to just give us a different point of view about how to communicate, how to get it out, and how to accurately and clearly be transparent. So anyway, that's been my experience with them.
Sure, and it's good to hear Deb saying that when she reaches out, they're responding back to her in a timely manner so she can do her business on her end.
Right, that's the whole point, is really having them to help support her and getting information out to the community.
Great.
I always run things by her. She's wonderful that way in getting back to me.
Just a little housekeeping. We are getting some feedback from someone, so if you're not actually speaking, could you please turn your mic off?
I think it's still John Gibbons. John, do you want us to go back out and come back in again? Or is it just the recording that you're having a problem with? Because the community's starting to get upset now if they can't hear us.
Well, yeah, I guess we can try that. It sounds like there's a radio or TV on in the background. Can you hear me?
I have nothing on, John.
We can hear you, but it sounds like there's definitely feedback coming from your computer, it sounds like.
Well, we can try that. If everybody goes out, we'll come back in.
Okay, let's try that. Everybody log out.
Because the next conversation is an important one. I don't want anybody missing it. Okay, Sean Knight is saying the whole thing is offline, John. He's getting nothing.
He's looking at the wrong link. There's a new link.
Try new link.
Did you roll call again, Barbara?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, John.
I can hear you, John. But the point is, can people in the community hear? Julie, have you had anybody say that they couldn't hear? I told Sean to try a new link. I told Christine Sampson to try a new link. Nope. Sean is still offline.
I'm listening to it. It's on now. It's not, he's looking at the old link.
Can you send it to him or put it out there on the,
Yeah, it's on the news flash.
okay.
Is that on the,
Yeah, I can hear it on YouTube. It's working.
Thank you, Carrie.
okay.
Julie, anybody else not able to get on? You want to pass that information along to them? Is Julie here? We lose Julie.
Yeah, I don't see her yet.
John posted a new link on our website, so if people log back on, the new link is on there.
I don't know where Julie went.
Yeah.
Julie wants to know when she signs back on, John. Do you have to send her another invite?
No, I'll send her one now.
I just
Should
went
be-
back to my original invite.
Yeah, it should be the same link.
Yeah. Did you hear from Christine Sampson yet? Can she hear it?
No, but Sean got it.
You did. Okay. Great. All right. Well, I know we need to vote on some things here, so I would hope Julie comes back on shortly, but we will just have to make notes of who's doing motions if not. So we were discussing the BOCES. Are there any additional questions on any of these votes and resolutions from anyone here? No? Okay. So do I have a motion to move the votes and resolutions items to A through E to a consent agenda?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you. Finance information, Mike, it looks like we have some budget transfers there, which do not actually need to be approved, correct?
Right, the first group there are all budget transfers just for informational purposes because the individual amounts are under $30,000.
Okay.
Let's see. Then you've got a resolution for the ad alternate to do the sod on soccer fields, the athletic fields in lieu of grass seed. That's item number 6. So we went from item 5. Now we're into item 6 for finance. So that's a resolution. Item 6B is a resolution for the tax anticipation note for the new year. The time is coming up quick. We're going to need to, do the TAN like we did last year to get us cash flow in until tax collection starts coming around.
Right, and this is a TAN for expenses, and it's not the ban for the bond that we were talking about.
This is just our short-term cash flow needs until our tax collection season hits, which doesn't start hitting us until January. Item C are transfers numbers 181 and 182. These two are over the 30,000, and it's all part of the end of the year cleanup of certain accounts and things like that, and reclassifications that needs the board to approve.
Okay.
Item D is the disposal of surplus inventory. Dan Newman and some of the custodians went down in the basement and started pulling out some ancient old light fixtures, shelving, wood tables, all the items on this list. The items are old. They're just not salvageable. They have no value to us and no use to us. So we need a board resolution to allow us to dispose of that stuff.
Okay, great. Julie, are these items that we can do as a consent agenda, or do we need to read each one individually?
I have one question for Mike before we go there.
Yeah.
Do those items have identification codes on them, or are they just the items that have been stored down there?
Just items that have been stored down there. They don't have any ID tags on them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we can do a consent agenda, and then I can do also an asset disposal. Dispose of all the assets according to our financial statements.
Okay, thanks, Julie. So does anybody have any other questions about these four finance items? The add alternate, the TAN, budget transfers, and the disposal? Anybody? Okay, then do I have a motion to move finance items A through D to a consent agenda?
I make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Carrie, Committee on Special Education.
Sure. So we just have two cases. One is a new student who moved into district, and the other case is a change of placement of one of our students.
Okay, thank you. Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby accepts the recommendations from the Committee on Special Education, CSE cases 1 and 2. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, new business. Time to talk about COVID.
Well, the first item there is the health, safety, and facilities meeting. We had our first meeting this past Wednesday. Both Pat Brabant and Dave Conlon are on that committee. And I know it was the middle of the day and Pat probably gets busy, but we had about 16 people participate. 2 doctors, several community members, a few teachers, as well as some of the administrative staff. Thought the process went very well. It was mainly to kind of introduce them to the committee, go over our mission statement, and then just start an open discussion of their concerns. A lot of it was mostly about their concerns. And I was glad that the doctors were on board to talk a little bit more about, the COVID-19 and the infectious rates and things like that, to try to put some things in perspective, because as you know, a lot of people tend to spin all over the place. So, it was a good starting point. We've decided we're going to meet once a week virtually to formulate and support some of the other committee work that's being done, where we can kind of figure out things like, the cleaning and disinfecting that has to go on within the building, checklists for what work needs to be done. So again, our custodial staff, they'll have a kind of a marching order and just a game plan on what they need to do to try to keep the health and safety of the building up to par. We haven't yet addressed any of the other facilities kinds of needs like we did last year, but that's going to be something we're going to hold off until later in the fall. So that was it in a nutshell.
Barbara, do you want Mike to speak to the consultant that the district is going to hire through BOCES and EnviroScience regarding health, safety, and facilities at this time?
Let's see.
Because it's a BOCES service, it's not going to be a board agenda item.
Oh, right, for Stephanie, you mean?
Stephanie, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yes.
Yeah, okay. We've decided after talking it over among the administrators, and we presented it to the board, to contact a person who's been a facilities director. She has been a past president of the Suffolk County Buildings and Grounds Association, which is a subset of the New York State Buildings and Grounds Association. She's got 17 years of experience. She's got a very good reputation and track record. She comes with an awful lot of information, and she is willing to work for Spring School, basically working through EnviroScience so that we can get the BOCES aid for the services to help us formulate a little bit more of the cleaning and disinfecting plans. She's going to help participate on our Health, Safety, and Facilities Committee as well. And the idea is to try to get our custodians and help people, Dan Newman and some of the other custodians, help them do a better job overall. To do an adequate job as a facilities director or lead person, it's a lot of paperwork. And I think she can lend that support and lend that assistance to help train Dan in particular. But she also has a lot of knowledge on just general cleaning techniques, supplies. She's got a good network. She's planning already to bring in some of the vendors who we would buy cleaning supplies and equipment from to do some of the training, which I think is invaluable. So I think that's about it in a nutshell for her too.
Mike,
I want to take the opportunity to thank the board because, we've been doing policy and procedures since I came to Springs. We did transportation a couple of years ago. We brought somebody in for fine arts, and it's a temporary consultant that will just get us really on track and make sure that we dot our I's and cross our T's. She's very much into health and safety, and that's our primary goal right now, is to really concentrate on the health and safety of our building, of our staff, the facilities, and I think a sense of confidence in having somebody of her expertise under EnviroScience. Remember, EnviroScience is the company that came out to do our mold remediation, does our water testing. So they are only one of two companies on Long Island that do this work, and they highly recommended Stephanie Popke to us to do some consulting for us.
I was just going to say, I don't think it was so much. I think Mike, I don't know if he misspoke, but I think it's not so much that the custodians need to do a better job. I think that, everything we're living in right now is just such uncharted territory that I think she can bring some expertise and insight that maybe all of us, including the custodial staff, can use to make the school safer for our faculty and our students.
Yeah, right. I probably did misspeak on that one, but you're 100% correct on that. Like she had explained, there are so many new procedures that go on out there. So it's just a matter of introducing them to some of these other procedures that, and again, some are going to work, some are not, maybe, but at least it gives them a few more tools in their tool belt.
Right.
Yes, I think that'll be a really important part going forward with making sure that everybody's comfortable with the level of cleanliness and disinfecting that's going on in the building. So I think she will be an asset as we move ahead with with these new plans that we have to make.
I'll take the next part. Looking at our space, we're under construction. We're already in need of additional space. So when we saw some of the guidance from the Department of Health, from the CDC, and from the State Education Department, we started to explore additional space. We learned about some trailers that all we needed to do was pay for them to be moved. Mike went out to Amityville to look at these trailers. It is one unit made up of 5 trailers, and the space is about 4,700 square feet. Absolutely too much for what we need, and more of a permanent structure. Again, not something that we need. So today we met with a tent company. They're out of Long Island. Of course, we look for what would be the most expensive and what would be the least expensive. What we would really like to see is opportunities for our students to get outside more frequently. Use this as an opportunity to do that additional recess or eat lunch someplace else, take your mask off, have a mask break. So there are some tents that we can purchase. We had a community member with us today who is thinking about doing some sort of fundraising to help us with this. But even if we were to get a few tents to put outside so that our children could get additional opportunities to go outside, even maybe do phys ed out there or music out there, it just gets them out of the building for a period of time. So we explored both options, and we're not making any recommendation right now to purchase or rent additional space, because I think once we propose our schedule to you next Monday, we may be okay in the building. We can't use shared spaces, so Eric will speak more to that. So we're looking better than we did when we first started this, but we wanted to at least explore all options.
I think that's definitely an interesting option, seeing as, you know, we've been reading some articles about, you know, kids being outside and the more air and, you know, less incidents of COVID happening like that. So I'm glad you're thinking outside the box with these things.
And the tent, Barbara, if we purchase some of these tents that are used, they're not brand new, we feel we could use them again. So it could be used for graduation ceremony. It could be used for back to school barbecue when we're able to do that again. Field day, we're always looking for shade out there for field day. So I don't think the expense would be something we would regret. They're very affordable. They're made out of aluminum, so they don't rust. It's just the canvas part that you replace every 5 years, depending on how much use. The company we were dealing with is a BOCE's vendor, and they do take the tents up and down for you for a small fee. And they also come out and make sure that they are structurally sound. Anytime they're out on the East End, they check out tents all the time. So there's a small fee for that to just make sure that they're safe. Basically, you're paying for a service. So more on that as we get the estimates tomorrow.
Okay, great.
Eric is up on COVID. He had the instructional side of the committees.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for allowing me to share tonight. As you all know, that there's a number of committees that are working independently, concurrently, but all of the work that is being done will be in one comprehensive document that we will obviously share with our community. For speaking for my colleagues here in the administrative staff, you know, the health and safety of all of our students and staff, and ultimately our families, will be the primary priority for reopening in any phase that we decide to go into. As Deb said, I am working with the instructional committee, and I'm going to talk a little bit about our two meetings. As you know, just to give you a little bit of a timeline, SED and the CDC put out their guidance last Monday and Wednesday, so we don't have a lot of time to get this done. As you know, our plans have to be posted for review on July 31st, which is next Friday. So tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about the work that we've done in the instructional committee, what our next steps are, and what our plan is moving forward. So I've had the privilege to work with a number of staff members on the instructional committee. We have representation from our K-2, our 3 through 5, our 6 through 8, our special area teachers, our E&L teachers, as well as our special education teachers. We've had 2 meetings since July 13th guidance came out from the CDC, and from the time that the SED put out their guidance last Wednesday. As part of the first meeting, we did 2 things. One, we reviewed the data that we received from the 2 surveys that we put out, one to our families and one to our staff. And we also started looking at the guidance documents and started compiling the information and looking for things like similarities, contradictions, because there were a few of those in there as well too. And we started putting together a pretty comprehensive plan, which I shared the latest iteration with you this morning. and you will be continuing to be updated with that plan as we work on it. Our next meeting with this committee is taking place tomorrow at 11 a.m., and then we have a follow-up meeting on Thursday. Our goal here is to get you the information for you to review the final plan next Monday. That will allow you sometimes to ask questions, make revisions, contact the school attorney if need be, because by next Friday, our plans do have to be posted. These are uncertain times, and I think, we take great pride at Spring School as to how our classrooms look, and our teachers spend enormous amounts of time really trying to create an amazing learning environment for our students, which they do. Unfortunately, for the foreseeable future, that may look a little different. We are setting up a number of various model classrooms based on the CDC guidelines and mandates, as well as the SED guidelines and mandates. So you will notice that that's going to look our classrooms may look a little bit different moving forward. That's not to say the quality of the teaching won't be amazing as it always is, but again, this is something that we have to put in place. Just to give you a little perspective, we had a good number of our staff return the surveys. Approximately about 70% of them returned the surveys, with another 40% of our families returning the surveys. Of course, we would have loved to have 100% participation, but we had approximately 40% participation. Our second meeting, which took place last Thursday, is when we started to actually draft the plan. Our goal is to take the work that Mike is doing in health and facilities, the work that I will be doing with the instructional committee, the work that Deb is doing on transportation, and the work that Kerry's doing on social and emotional learning, and combine them all into one plan. And if you look at the plan today, you'll notice that those components have already started to be compiled. Our focus tomorrow and over the next week will be to look at scheduling so we can propose a number of options to you. I know our committee has already met with their constituents and have some questions that we will be addressing as part of tomorrow's meeting. And as I said, our goal is to get you a finalized plan that you can review next Monday and that we could post the following Friday.
Thank you, Eric. Kerry took the Guidance Advisory Committee, which is a board committee, and has added the it is SEL, but added the component of trauma. And we know our students, when they return, and our staff are going to need social and emotional support. So that committee is basically made up of our guidance counselor, a psychologist, a social worker, and Tim is on there, and a teacher is on there, Tracy.
Yep. And we have our health teachers on there as well, who teach SEL second step in their classes. So this committee, like Ms. Winter said, is our guidance committee who picked and have been implementing second step for the past 2 years. So our first meeting was this past Thursday. We talked about the surveys that went out to our staff as well as our parents, and also all of the documents that were sent out from DOH and SED. And we started to look over the reopening plan and how we meet our students' needs, but also our staff and parents' needs during this time. So the next focus, we meet tomorrow, and we will be focusing on what steps do we need to do to enhance second steps. I'm staying away from the word surveys, but more of getting to know where our students' social emotional baseline is, as well as our staff, and what does that look like, and how do we need to then respond. And then we will be looking at second step is having a teacher component added coming the end of August. So we'll also look at that to see if that's something that would behoove us to help support our teachers.
Thank you, Carrie. And I took transportation, and I met with Marion. Betty Ann is the bus driver in charge of the bus drivers, and Robbie Anderson has been doing a wonderful job maintaining our buses, and cleaning and disinfecting our buses. We also are following the guidance from the CDC as well as the Department of Health and the State Education Department. There was a major conflict between the Department of Health and the State Education Department. We're still waiting for clarity on that. One group says that as long as students wear masks on the bus, they do not have to social distance. And then another document says you need to wear a mask and social distance. The point of reference here is the difference is if you have to social distance and wear a mask, you can only put 22 students on a bus that holds 66. You should know at spring school, we load our buses with at least 90. Now, many of those students don't take the bus. They are in before or after school care, but we usually load them with 90. To load our buses with 22 or 44 students will be a significant burden on the spring school. We did put out a survey asking our parents that the recommendation from the Department of Health was, when possible, please drive your student to and from school. We did get back a small sample. It's not all of our parents, about 175. We have about 500 families that have responded to the survey. So it's really not a good indication. Right now it shows that 150 students need transportation. We don't know if that's 150, they just felt that they didn't have to respond, or is that just 150? We need 6 weeks lead time in order to schedule our buses. So we're gonna have to make one last ditch after this plan comes out to say to our parents, if you require transportation, you must reach out to us so that we can schedule these runs. Our bus drivers, all with the exception of one, will be returning, so that's good news. We're still looking for bus drivers. We still are willing to train as long as the drivers stay with us for a year. And Robbie will be the person to disinfect the buses at the end of the day, and in between the major runs, morning and afternoon, our bus drivers will be responsible for cleaning the buses as they always have. Your buses have to be loaded from the back to the front, so that's another scheduling nightmare. And then you have to disembark the same way from the front to the back going home. So you're looking at a whole different way of routing these buses. If we have to do double runs, that's where the scheduling piece comes in, doing like an advisory period where Carrie can run maybe her SEL and check in with students, see how you're doing today, how you're feeling. All right, you're happy today. You know, is there something you want to talk about today? And then on the tail end, we're going to have to start car line and bus about probably a period earlier, just so that we can get everybody out from car line and do second runs on our buses and still be out of the building by 3:20. Very important to give our custodial staff a chance to clean and disinfect. Remember, they're almost doing double duty. So that's, it's important that we vacate the building as soon as possible at the end of the day to allow for that to happen. These are big jobs, all of them. And I have to say that the team is constantly working. You saw some of my emails last night as I found articles. We looked at plans from other states. Tim, thank you for sending me Virginia's plans. New York was very late in coming out with their plan. We're still anticipating some surprises from the state as our governor gets some pressure. So we will develop 3 plans, a hybrid, a in-person one, and then of course a remote one. When you look at the guidance from the Department of Health, if one person gets sick and that one person has ridden the bus, and those children on the bus belong to 7 or 8 classrooms in our building, you're shutting down school. And then the guidance is 14 days is the wait time to make sure that nobody is infected. So a lot to think about, but I have to say I am working with a tremendous team, and the community members that are on are given very freely of their time to help us and assist us, and they've been very patient with us as well. The PTA has offered to do whatever they need to do to assist us. So we're in this together, as we keep saying, and we ask for everybody's patience as we post our plan on the 31st, and I have 28 pages worth of assurances that I have to check boxes. So trust me when I say I won't be checking those boxes without being sure that I can assure that we've done everything that the state has asked us to do. And there's one question already I looked at that has to say about hospital capacity. I will have to reach out to Southampton and ask them how they intend to notify school districts in the Southampton town of when they're at capacity and what they expect us to do when they're at capacity. We have questions already for our attorneys. We're waiting for guidance from them. They're all working together with their colleagues to try to get some answers to our questions. Department of Health has a special website, so we can ask questions there, as does the State Education Department. I share things with you as soon as I get them, but your update this past week has all the links in one place. John Gibbons will be loading all those links to our community page as well, so that any community member, when I reference the Department of Health document, they can go to that one place on our website and pull up the Department of Health document. So I want to be as transparent as possible and have all the guidance documents that we're receiving on our website, and John will ensure that. I know we probably have questions from the community. There was a question that was sent prior to the board meeting regarding tracing. Yes, that has to be part of our plan. The school district starts the tracing by working collaboratively with the Department of Health. So where was this staff person? How many rooms were they in during the day? Everything's kept confidential. And then they tell us whether we need to close for 24 hours, 72 hours, for 2 weeks. So, but we have to initiate the tracing. We have to have sign-in sheets. We have to know who's been in what rooms at what time, just like we do right now at the SYA building and the portable and the main building. Anytime we go into those areas, we're signing in so that people know that we're in those spaces, just in case something takes place. Julie, do you have other questions? Board questions?
All I can say, Deb, is it's a lot, regardless of how you look at it. I appreciate all the effort everybody's making, but I also understand how difficult it is to try to put things together, not really knowing some of the key things that have to be known. So again, we're all looking forward to kind of coming to that point where we have to submit a plan, and I think the community, as well as teachers and staff, are going to be waiting so they can make their plans. And again, I really appreciate all the time and effort put into this process. Being on one committee and knowing that what we're going to be talking about will be important for everybody. Also, I'm sure every committee has that charge. So I'm anticipating, like everybody else is, what the final outcome is going to be, so we can start planning in a more productive way.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you all and the administration for all the work you're putting into this. And I know we're making plans, and there's a very good chance that whatever plan we make may have a change come into it at some point during the school year. And I think just flexibility is, everybody just has to be prepared to be flexible with what happens. We can try to plan as much as we can, but since things are so uncertain, we certainly want our kids to feel comfortable and not that things are uncertain. But being able to go with the flow is a very valuable skill. And so I'm sort of mentally, girding myself up to, read your plan and see whatever's happening and mentally be in one page and, suddenly find the rug whisked out from underneath. So it is a lot of work for an uncertain situation. So in a very short amount of time. So we are having an extra meeting next Monday as you said, to go over this. So I'm, looking forward to seeing how these plans develop, certainly.
We had another question, Barbara, that had to do with safety and our lockdowns and keeping our children safe if we've got windows open and doors open. I want to assure the community that our security guards are staying on with us. They will be doing what they usually did, but probably more on the perimeter, okay? Because we went with retired police officers, they are very astute and very aware if there's something going on in the community and our students should not be outside. So, we will take their lead on that. We do have construction. It's really very important that our staff and our construction staff know that they can't be on our property and going the wrong direction up Ed Holt's Lane. They can't park up by the doorways. We're getting everybody used to that mood this summer because before we know it, the students will be here and Carline will be horrendous. It absolutely will be if we're asking parents to help us out by driving their students. But Eric will be working with his ERT team to look at our emergency procedures, because remember, a fire drill cannot have massive people out in the fields like we used to. So what they're recommending is you do your fire drill, but maybe at a time of the day you have very few students in the building. They're recommending a video like you watch on the airplane for your lockdown, showing the students where they would go in real lockdown, but not practicing it, because when you see the square that 24 students get into for a lockdown, we're not going to ask them to practice that. The bus drill. We've asked many times so far to put stickers on our buses and the fire hazards. We've been told about hand sanitizers. Please don't leave them in your car, people, because they're flammable. They can burn right through the door compartment that you put your stuff in. We've seen a couple of pictures of that. So we can't have hand sanitizers on our buses. Our matrons can't carry it. Our bus drivers can't carry it. So we're going to have to ask our parents to cooperate on that front too, and have sanitizers on the bus stop before the kid gets on the bus. Wash your hands before you get on the bus. It's a tremendous amount, but I want our parents to know that our security guards are coming back, and they just will be given the outside to do. Classroom doors have to stay open. We used to keep them locked. They'll stay locked so that door can be locked if they need to in emergency, but they'll be staying open to get that cross ventilation in the room.
That plan that gets renewed every year, does it not?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
So, Barbara, there'll be addendums to that plan to address COVID concerns.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much. Julie, are there any other community questions?
No, I don't have any other questions at this time.
Okay. I mean, certainly if parents have any questions, they can email the school and get in contact. They do not have, nobody has to wait for a public meeting. If you're concerned about something, please be in touch, and you will be gotten back to with whatever sort of answer is available at that time. So with any questions or concerns that you have.
Yeah, Barbara, they can email me at any time, and I will send the question to the superintendent and the Board of Education.
Great. Thank you, Julie. Are there any other questions from board members at this time about any of this, of the COVID planning? Okay. Then moving on to old business, we looked at the Board of Ed meeting calendar last month, or last meeting, I mean, to check out the dates and make sure that they worked for everybody. Did everyone have a chance to have a look at that?
Yes.
And do these dates work for everyone?
So far, especially if they're being done virtually.
Well, I mean, we do need to get back to meetings in person eventually, and I know there was some question about that since we're, meeting remote, but our kids will be coming back. Unfortunately, our building is really not in the position to have all of us and the community in for a meeting right now anyway, regardless of this, with the work that's going on inside of there. And I forgot to ask Jim that while he was here, when he thought that we might be able to be in there, but when we can be back in there, we will certainly, let everybody know.
Or don't forget, you still have the governor's orders
Yep.
that board meetings are to be remote. So you can do partial, but still does not recommend full board and full community till like August 6th, I believe it is.
Right. But would our building be, and would we be in a position to actually have one at that time anyway, considering the work that's going on inside?
As I said, I recommended you do the SYA. It's nice and open. The summer program will be over in the second week of August. So there will be children that, will be there during the daytime. So you could do a nighttime meeting safely in that space.
Okay. So we will bear that in mind. So this does not actually have a resolution here for approving it, but if this works with everyone, I guess we'll go ahead and, actually it doesn't need the resolution because it's not the actual school calendar.
No,
what
it's your
I'll
calendar.
do is I'll post it on the website under the Board of Education calendar, and that will be our tentative schedule.
Right. Okay, great. So public commentary number 2, we've basically taken care of with a couple of questions that you've had, Julie. Has anyone else been in touch with anything in the last few minutes here?
No, I've had nothing since we spoke. No.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So you will keep us posted with how your meetings are going this week, and we will reconvene a week from tonight. Right?
Yep.
So in that case, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thanks very much, everybody. Have a good night.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Stay safe.
Good night.
Thanks for getting everybody on, John.
Yeah, sorry about the technical glitches.
That's all right. We got figured out.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Dawn, Christine Sampson might just like the recording of it when you have it.
Yeah, I'll post that right away.
Okay, thank you. Bye, Tim.
Bye-bye. Take care.